What's up, guys? CT back with my 2014 SEC football preview, and we are talking about the Tennessee Volunteers and Butch Jones back in his second year at Tennessee as he continues to try to rebuild the rich tradition of Tennessee football and trying to do it one brick at a time, which is his saying, and coming off of a tough year last year in 2013, in which they went 5-7 and 2-6 in the SEC, and which lands them just one game short of a bowl game. And they did get a nice win against South Carolina, which is really the only positive thing you can really take from last year. They were competitive in a couple games against big teams like Georgia, but and I guess, well, I was gonna say Florida, but the awful year that they ended up having, can't take much from that, I don't think. But I think they weren't competitive enough in a lot of games. I remember they got killed by Oregon, Alabama, Missouri, Auburn, and that's just not going to get it done. There's no, there's good losses and bad losses, and you know, I think Tennessee fans will be okay with Tennessee losing to Alabama, but not losing to Alabama by 30. They're okay with them losing to Oregon, but not losing to Oregon by nearly 50 points. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But I think they'll show some improvement this year. I think Butch Jones is the right man for the job. I feel confident in that, but he does have his hands full, and it will be a difficult task. But Butch Jones has been successful everywhere he's been, and just when I just hear him talk about the state of the program, he just kind of instills that belief in you that he at some point is going to get it done. And Tennessee is such a rich tradition in football that you have to think, when that right coach comes along, it'll be right back to where they used to be. Kind of reminds me of Kentucky basketball. You remember Kentucky was not very good in basketball for a good 6-7 year period. Once Rick Pitino left, and then once they hire John Calipari, bam, they're right back to where they used to be, on top as one of the elite programs in college basketball. And I see the same thing with Tennessee. Just that right coach has to come around. But it's harder to build a football team and rebuild a football program than it is a basketball program. As you know, a basketball program only takes a two or three good players at the most, and you're back in business. But let's talk about what they got coming back this year. They have 5 returning starters on offense and 5 on defense. And I saw, I believe it was Tom Luginbill on ESPNU say that Tennessee is the only team in the country that doesn't have a single returning starter on the offensive or defensive line. If that is the case, that is a very, very big concern, because if you're gonna have young players, you would prefer them be out and at the skill positions, at the receivers, at the defensive backs. You do not want that to be up front in the SEC. That's going to be a huge, huge issue for Tennessee this year. Key losses. They lost Rajon Neal, who I felt like was a running back who was better than most people gave him credit for. I remember he had a couple solid runs last year. I remember he had that one really good run against Auburn that I remember watching, and he was a solid back. He didn't really, he wasn't anything like spectacular. He wasn't a Jamal Lewis or anything like that. But I think losing him
is a you'd like to have him back, but it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. What might kill you though is losing Jawan James and Tiny Richardson on the offensive line. That might kill you. Richardson was a really good tackle and one of the best tackles in all of college football last year. I remember him having some classic battles with Jadeveon Clowney over the past couple years. Also recall them doing a little trash talking for the game. And but yeah, that's really about all they lose, and the offensive and defensive line and Rajon Neal. So I mean, it's a lot, but not really a lot of big names that they're losing here. Key returnees, they're returning Josh Dobbs, who I'm assuming is going to be the quarterback. Uh, a little bit inconsistent last year. Doesn't have a whole lot of help around him, but he did have a good offensive line, which is one of the best. Tennessee had one of the best offensive lines in the country last year. I don't think a lot of people know that, but I think they really did. Made Rajon Neal maybe look better than he was, but uh, Josh Dobbs, I guess he has potential. Uh, he's a, he's a he's a mobile quarterback. I remember seeing him have some good runs last year. I believe against specifically in the Kentucky game and the Auburn game. I remember having busting a big run up the middle. Uh, so yeah, he may be all right. He could be all right if they put the weapons around him. Like they're not like I said, they only lose Rajon Neal, so they should have some experience coming back in the receiving core for Josh Dobbs. Uh, they returned Marlon Lane, I guess, who's going to be the starting running back in place of Rajon Neal. Uh, didn't see much from him last year. From what I did see, he looked pretty. He looked like a decent back. Tennessee doesn't really have anybody who really blows you away at the skill positions. There is one guy who I'm about to get to here in a second, and if you're a Tennessee fan, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about on defense. But yeah, they need to get the running game going. If which may be difficult if you're having to replace your entire offensive line, and really that's that's just a huge concern. I can't stress how big that is. That I've never heard of that. I've never heard of anyone losing their entire offensive line. That's crazy, and it's weird because someone was talking on ESPN the other day that they think Tennessee's offensive line is going to be really good. So your guys are contradicting themselves on uh, ESPN. So you might want to take a look at that. Um, they returned Marquez North and Pig Howard at receivers. Uh, don't really was never really wowed by any of Tennessee's receivers last year. They were really struggling to replace Cordell Patterson and Justin Hunter, who were absolutely phenomenal receivers and two guys that I was wanting the Panthers to draft. I'm a Panther fan, in case you didn't know, and which of course they didn't, and that they really need to replace some star power at the skill positions. Tennessee needs some playmakers on offense. If you watched my Kentucky preview, same problem with Kentucky. You need some playmakers on offense. You know, like they lost. They haven't had any playmakers since Randall Cobb and Derek Locke. So Tennessee's facing the same challenges, still trying to replace Cordero Patterson and Justin Hunter. They do return A.J. Johnson, who's just an absolute monster at the linebacker position. Probably the best linebacker in the country. Uh, if you know one better, let me know, because I don't know who it is. Really surprised he came back this year. I was really thinking he was going to be gone. The quarterback of that Tennessee defense. just an excellent linebacker all around in coverage. When it comes to stopping the run, and he's all over the field making tackles, and he can come out and you can cover receivers to where it's not a mismatch and cover tight ends. I mean, this guy, he's really going to be the anchor on that defense. You would really be hurting if you weren't having A.J. Johnson back, losing your defensive line. So maybe A.J. Johnson can still be the anchor in that defense and still give you some stops when you need it. Uh, really like A.J. Johnson. Would love to see him in a Panthers uniform one day, even though he plays middle linebacker, and we're pretty much set at middle linebacker, so we would have to move him to the outside. But that's irrelevant. And let's go ahead and take a peek at the Tennessee schedule this year. They start out with a really tricky game against Utah State, and Chucky Keaton is a phenomenal quarterback. I believe this will be his senior year, I guess. 2011 was his freshman year. Yep. So Chucky Keaton, this could be a problem. I remember South Alabama giving Tennessee problems last year. So I'll definitely see Utah State and Chucky Keaton giving them big issues in that season opener. Yeah, I still will go with Tennessee at home just because I believe that Butch Jones isn't gonna let one sneak by like that in the season opener. He knows this is a game he's gonna have to win, and I believe Butch Jones will get it done. Then they play Arkansas State, who's been another pretty good team over the past few years, and Arkansas State seems to always play like half the SEC every year. Has anyone else noticed that? Like half the teams in the SEC have Arkansas State on their schedule like every year. Uh, but whatever. Uh, they're a solid team, and they run a uh, they run a an up tempo offense. At least they have the past couple of years, and they have a lot of speed and a lot of speed for a Sun Belt team, especially. Definitely got to be careful with Arkansas State. They have a lot of offensive firepower, but their defense is not good at all. Tennessee, I don't care how many playmakers they have, they should be able to score pretty much at will on Arkansas State, which will put Tennessee at 2-0 going into Norman to take on Oklahoma. And this is a game where you just do what you can. This is really going to be a learning experience. This a really difficult game. You saw at Oklahoma how impressive they looked in the Sugar Bowl last year. That quarterback, can't think of his name right now, looks really good, and they're expecting really big things out of him this year. A lot of people are picking Oklahoma to finish in the top four at the end of the year and be in that playoff. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game, and I don't see any way Tennessee can go into Oklahoma and pull that one out. Then they have a bye week before they go to Georgia, which will be another difficult game. And I don't see if you're losing your entire offensive line, I don't think even A.J. Johnson is going to be able to stop Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall and that Georgia running attack. So I think you'll lose the game because you won't be able to stop Georgia's rushing attack. Um, then they have Florida at home, and this is the game of the year if you're Tennessee, because this is the game of the year for both teams. Whoever wins this game is going to go on to have a good year, and whoever loses this game, I feel like is going to go in the opposite direction. And if you watch my Florida preview, I picked Florida to win this one in an absolute battle, which I think it's going to be. But this game, Tennessee could win this game, but I think Florida's defense is going to be too good. I don't see Tennessee's going to struggle to score points on them. So that's my biggest concern. But they'll keep it close just because Florida has no offense, as of now, unless drastic changes happen between now and then. But I think Florida squeaks it out. Then you get a win against Chattanooga. And then you go to Ole Miss against a very tough Ole Miss team who's on the rise. And by the way, you draw Ole Miss as your rotating game, which it could be a lot worse. Could have drawn LSU or Auburn. So, and of course, you always play Alabama, which is a tough break for Tennessee. But rivalries are rivalries. There are a lot of teams are in the same boat in the SEC. But yeah, I see Ole Miss putting up a lot of points here. Tennessee won't be able to stop Bo Wallace and that Ole Miss offense. So I see Ole Miss probably win this game by a couple touchdowns. Nothing too drastic. I don't think they'll get blown out of there or anything, but I say a couple touchdowns will Ole Miss will get the victory. And then you host Alabama, and I don't think you all have been able to play Alabama tough since like the 2008, 2009, around maybe since the Kiffin era, or I guess he was only there for 1 year, wasn't he? Was he there for 1 year or 2 years? Can't remember. Who cares? No one, no one likes Lane Kiffin, who's watching this video anyway. I'm sure. Uh, but speaking of Lane Kiffin, as he's now the offensive coordinator at Alabama, so Lane Kiffin will return to Alabama and will return to Tennessee as the offensive coordinator, and I think Lane Kiffin will get the last, not maybe not the last laugh, but he'll get the next laugh in this game, as Alabama will get another win against Tennessee and extend whatever the winning streak is. Then you go to South Carolina, which is another really difficult game. It's a grueling schedule for Tennessee, as it always is. Tennessee always has one of the toughest schedules in the country. Uh, it's going to be tough. I think Tennessee or South Carolina is the best team in the East, so obviously I'm picking South Carolina to win this one as well. Then you have a bye before you host Kentucky, and you get an SEC win here. Definitely, Tennessee's won like 27 out of the last 28 or something crazy like that. Uh, but yeah, Kentucky kind of in a similar situation to Tennessee, but I think Tennessee is a couple notches above Kentucky right now in the rebuilding process. So definitely like Tennessee to pick up the win there at home. And then you have Missouri at home, which I believe I picked Tennessee to win in the Missouri preview. So of course I'm going to pick Tennessee. And occasionally I'm gonna try not to, but if I've done that before and picked one team to win in one preview and the other team in the other, it's not on purpose. It's just hard to go through all these games and remember who I picked. But I'm about 99% sure I picked Tennessee to win in the Missouri preview. So because I do like Tennessee to win this game, simply because they're at home. I think the talent level will be pretty similar between Missouri and Tennessee this year. So playing in Neyland, and they had an absolute thriller the last time they played at Tennessee. I think that triple overtime game that Tennessee should have won. I remember that game very, very clearly. It was a great game though, and I believe that was the first meeting ever between Tennessee and Missouri. So Tennessee's 0-2 all time against Missouri, but I think they make it 1-2 after this year. And they finished the season up at Vanderbilt. And I like how Vanderbilt and Tennessee now play the last game of the year instead of Tennessee and Kentucky playing. That's the way it should be. In-state rivals should play the last game of the year. And I like Tennessee here because Vanderbilt post James Franklin, and they lost Jordan Matthews, who was really their main playmaker on offense. They really don't have much coming back. It's a new era, a new team for Vanderbilt, and I think where Vanderbilt was beyond Tennessee as far as building a program, I think they took 2 steps back as Tennessee will take a step forward and above Vanderbilt. Tennessee will now be the best team in the state of Tennessee, and an unfortunate for Vandy to lose James Franklin because they really had something going there. But it is what it is. Let's count up the total wins that I have for Tennessee this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6 wins. You get to a bowl game if this is indeed what happens. And you finish the season off with 3 consecutive wins. And if you get a bowl win, that's 4 in a row. Great way to end the year and something to build on in 2015 as you can take another step in the building process for Butch Jones and the Tennessee Vols. So that would be a successful year. I know Tennessee fans. I know they may be a little bit impatient and maybe want this thing to take off immediately. When people see like what happened at Auburn last year, they want success immediately, but it's not that easy everywhere. And that was just a fortunate situation that Auburn was in, and it's not like that anywhere else. Trust me. And there was a lot more rebuilding to be done in Tennessee. So I got 6 wins for Tennessee, and that's really all you can ask for at this point in time. And when's the last time they've been to a bowl game? 2009? I think it's been 2008. I think it was the Music City Bowl against North Carolina was the last time they went. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but get back to the bowl game for the Vols, and I see that as a very likely scenario. So a successful year for the Vols and something to build on. But I think that about does it for Tennessee preview. And as always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.